Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about sensible transfers. So, sensible transfers for Bayern for this summer specifically is obviously quite difficult because we don't know the certain situation with some players and their contracts. You know, you've got the likes of Gnabry, you've got the likes of Lewandowski, you've got the likes of Müller, you've got the likes of Neuer. And we'll talk about those players specifically and the contract situation in a lot more detail in a separate video that I've got planned. But just for today's video, sensible transfers for the summer and how I would kind of approach with what I would do in a sensible manner, because you can take it into account the economics and obviously the landscape currently with still recovering from COVID, obviously not being nearly as bad anymore economically and financially, but still being a massive thorn in a side, to say the least. So in regards to sensible transfers, now I want to talk very quickly about the 4 players that I've just mentioned. As I said, we'll talk about them in a lot more detail in a future video, but those 4 players we've mentioned: Lewandowski, Neuer, Müller and Gnabry. Here is what I would do. I'd offer the trio of Lewandowski, Neuer and Müller a contract extension until 2024 with a 1 year, you know those 2024 plus 1 contract deals, where not the player themselves but us can take that additional year if we want to. And I'd offer them all the same exact deal, which is 25 million. Take it or leave it. So if they don't take it, get rid of them. I know, harsh, brutal, it's the world. And if they if they take it, fine, amazing. You've got a contract until 2024, potentially 2025. And if you don't want it, well, c'est la vie. That's life. Arrivederci. See ya. That's what we'll do with that trio. Gnabry, I'd offer, I think, if taking into account obviously his importance during the treble season, but then also taking into account his inconsistency. Yes, he's got a lot of scorer points, I get that, but he does play significantly different than the likes of Sané and Coman. Coman and Sané are much more traditional wingers, whereas Gnabry is more so a inside forward, or wide forward rather than inside. Well, he plays on the half spaces most of the time, so a mix between an inside forward and a half forward, I guess. An inside forward and a wide forward. And what I would do with Gnabry is I'd offer him 17 million and leave it at that. So that puts him in around the same range as Coman and Sané. That's kind of what I would put. I'd leave it, and also have the same approach: take it or leave it. So I wouldn't negotiate any higher, I wouldn't negotiate any lower. I'd say 17 million or 16.5 million. You know, we don't always have to round up to 17. We can't, you know, there are decimals, there are multiple points in between. But I would say give him around 17 million and tell him, you know, if you can take it, we're giving you time until May to decide whether we want to take it or not. And if he doesn't, sell him. If he does, keep him. Now, in case of those 4 players, let's say, you know, they are not taking a deal, what I would do: Neuer, I mean, if the reports are anything to go by, Neuer's deal is very much in the bag. Verbal agreement, everything is ready. Just, you know, get the final steps over the line per se. But what I would do with Neuer, if Neuer doesn't take it, obviously he's still got a contract until 2022, I believe. So 2023 rather. Play him. You don't have to sell Neuer. You don't need to sell Neuer. Neuer isn't gonna get, you know, be someone that's going to get you a large sum. So with Neuer, I'd say, you know what, Neuer, we're not, you know, you didn't take our contract offer. We're not gonna offer you a new one, but you're still gonna be playing for us until 2023, and that's it. Müller, I'd do the same. You don't need to sell him. We've got players in the wings waiting. You've got the likes of Musiala and Wana. I really wanna. I'm clever, aren't I? No, but I really want to see. Okay, no, I'll stop. But yeah, with Müller, I'd do the same thing. 2023. Okay, you didn't want to take the new contract. That's fine. You're gonna still be playing for us. You know, that isn't gonna change. We're not gonna sell you. But I'd definitely integrate Musiala much more further forward. I think Musiala, you know, as a 10 in that attacking midfield role. Honestly, yeah, I think he is the future. I don't want to see him further deep personally, but I get it. Necessary. It was necessary this season. But for me, Musiala, further forward. He'd get a lot more time between now and you know, by the end of next season. He'd play there a lot more. Müller would get a lot more rotated if he doesn't want to take it. Lewandowski, I'd sell. because with Lewandowski, you can still catch a great fee. So Lewandowski, I would sell. I don't think Lewandowski. I don't think the striker per se, like in general, is as important. Yes, Lewandowski is the top striker in world football, but there are a lot of strikers that are, amazing. In and around his quality. So, and young as well. So striker is not a position where I'm like, there's no one in world football that could possibly replace that. I'm like, nah. There's plenty of people. They might not be on the same level, but they'll be younger, and they'll be able to grow into that role, into the mold into that team a lot of times. So that's fine. Strikers, I'm like the least worried about. When with Lewandowski, I'd sell him as well because he'd catch a very high fee, and he seems like someone that would much rather leave than stay until 2023 in a similar vein to what he did at Dortmund, where he wanted to leave, but Dortmund stopped him from leaving. I think we should actually let him leave if he doesn't take the contract. Next up, this video is brought to you by SoulRare. SoulRare is a fantasy football online video game that you can join now with the link in the description down below. Go check it out, as well as the video that will help you understand what it's about. Gnabry, I've kind of said already what I'd do. If he doesn't take the extension, I'd sell him this season. Who I would get in, I kind of had to talk about this recently as well on Twitter. I'd get in Gakpo. I'd get in Cody Gakpo from PSV. I think, honestly, he's become one of my favourite players. That's just a fact. He's become one of my favourite players. I really love watching him. Basically, scores or assists every single game. He is a very consistent performer. I rate him significantly higher than the likes of Anthony, who we've been linked with. And today we actually linked with who were we linked with? We were linked with someone. I forgot who we were linked with, but we were linked with someone else in case Gnabry leaves. For me, we should be going for Gakpo. Honestly, I think that's who we go. That's who we should go for. In regards to Lewandowski replacement, I don't know who exactly I'd go for. Because what I would do if Lewandowski extends is I'd actually extend Zirkzee, and I'd actually loan him out to Anderlecht for another season or two, because he's performed very well in the first half of the season. In the second half of the season, he's kind of fallen off a little bit, but once he gets more experience in that top level, he's going to become more consistent. So I kind of like what I've seen from him in the first half of the season. Earlier on in the season, but obviously it's not been the same recently. But for me, I'd loan him out again, extend his contract as well, not sell him. That's just kind of how I would go about it, because even if we then try to sell him 2 years down the line, it would catch us nothing a bigger fee. So that's kind of how I would go about it. As I said, Cody Gakpo would be my replacement for Gnabry. Gnabry would probably be able to get around 40 to 50 million. So with Gakpo costing around 40 to 50 million, I think that'd be a good replacement. Lewandowski, as I said, a striker. I think with Lewandowski we'd be able to catch 40 to 50 million again, taking into account his age and everything, and the fact that he's in his final year of his contract. And I would instead get in. See, I'd try and get in Haller from Ajax. It's not a long-term solution, of course. I mean, he's 27, 28, so it'll be a 4 or 5 year solution, and in that time we'll see how other young prospects that we have in the team, as well as other clubs, have. You know where I'm going with this, right? If people don't know who I'm going with this, like, there is a certain youngster that represents Germany, who I'm a massive fan of, but he's, as of right now, I think he's 17. He plays for a certain club. He's currently, unfortunately, he's had an injury-ridden season, and I think he's going to be the next, big world star in world football, personally. But of course, we'll see how that all pans out. But yeah, that's kind of why I'd get Haller 3, 4, 5 years, and by that time, see how that youngster performs. That's just my take, though. Now, moving on. We need a right back. We don't need a centre back. I know the talk is that Sula is leaving. We need a centre back. I think we give Nianzou a lot more minutes. I think, honestly, I think he performs whenever he plays. Yeah, you think he's still got that one error, one mistake per game in him. And that only goes away when you get more minutes, and that's the issue. He hasn't really gotten minutes. I also think we should try him in midfield, because that's obviously he's both. Majority in PSG is actually played in midfield, to be fair, but I think we should try him there as well. His aggressive nature would work really, really well. But what I would do is, obviously we've been linked with Mazaru. I'd definitely butcher that name, but I'd still try getting him. Honestly, if we can't get him, a stopgap solution, I'm okay with that for a season. Another season, because we've already butchered the right back position for so long. Like we should have had a right back replacement in like 4 or 5 years ago, and we didn't, and now we're still suffering with it. But what I would do, as I said, is even if we have to get a stopgap solution, Stanisic, yeah, okay, he'll be able to fill that role for a year or two, and then, oops. Sorry, that was my phone going off. Yeah, and then we'll definitely have to, when the market opens up a little bit more next summer, when we've got more funds, we'll be able to definitely get someone in that time. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, and it's a reason why things start clicking in my head. We're going after Gravenberg. A lot of people are wondering, like, why? Why are we going after Gravenberg? Well, he plays like a young Kimmich. Not quite. Well, more physical, more spectacular young Kimmich, but obviously less consistent and less tactically aware. So does he really play like a young Kimmich then? I'd say the comparison has been made between him and Pogba. I don't quite agree with it. I think Kimmich is a more apt comparison. But here's why the wheels started turning in my head. Kimmich can play right back. He can play right back. I famously, not famously, I guess, but I once clearly made a video a few years ago when like Kimmich first started playing right back, complaining that we're wasting his potential, and I still hold that by that. It still holds very true. But he gives us an option on the right back position. So what I can see happening next season is Kimmich and Pavard and Stanisic, and we don't know what happens yet with Chris Richards, but you know, those players are gonna rotate in that right back position, in that right back spot. Now, Pavard has been playing exceptionally this season, which is also why I think he might go as a right centre back, you know, next season. But that all depends on this summer, and obviously it depends on what Nagelsmann wants. But I think if we don't get Mazaru, we kind of go with what we have. Bring Chris Richards back, who's basically played like every minute for Hoffenheim until he got injured, and since then he's obviously been injured with a foot injury. So if he comes back and he's performing, I think that's great. Is he Bayern material? Difficult to say. Playing for Hoffenheim, difficult to say. But I definitely want to see him. I definitely want to see him get an opportunity. That's just kind of the way it is. I kind of want to see all the youngsters get like a proper opportunity, which they haven't this season. That's just a fact. Now, another player that we need, and that's a player that I don't think many people are thinking about, the goalkeeper. Because Ulreich and Nubel, I want him to get loaned out regardless for another season to Monaco. He's been doing very well. He's really gotten into it. You know, first half of the season it was kind of iffy. Second half of the season he's been doing really, really well. Hopefully they get some sort of European competition for next season. I quite like Monaco, if I'm being completely honest. I quite like the players that they have. Chouameni, very big fan. You've got the likes of Volland. I just like Kevin Volland for some reason because World Cup is coming up, so we don't have strikers for Germany. So I'm kind of like, please get in form, but he's not been good this season at all. But I just kind of like the spine. You've got Diop as well. Just kind of like the spine of that team, So I hope Monaco gets some sort of European competition. It will help not Wirtz. That's a topic for 2023. But I kind of want Monaco, and especially Nubel, to get some sort of European competition. Hopefully, like Europa League, maybe even Champions League. I don't think they can push for that realistically, but that's kind of what I'd want to see. Now, last but not least, a wild card. I want to throw in a wild card. transfer in as well, and that would be Ajoke. I definitely butchered that name. Ajoke, I think would be probably the better way of phrasing it. I like him. I quite like him, and that's a personal choice. He isn't young or anything. He is 27, I want to say. 27, 28-ish, I want to say. But the thing about him is that he is one of the players in France who gets the most... how do you phrase it? He creates the most chances. In terms of chance creation, he is like top 5 in the French league. And he isn't at a particularly amazing team, not a bad team, but when you've got the likes of PSG, obviously with the superstars, and he's still in like the top 5 in like the last 3-4 seasons, you know, overall, to me that just screams put him in a better team. And I wouldn't say he'll light the world on fire. That's why he's my wild card. He's not like, oh, he's gonna, you know, be amazing or anything. He's gonna be like, the way I see him is he's gonna be that, okay, we're gonna spend 10-15 million on a player that may or may not work in the same vein as like a Rudy or Rode or man, what happened to Gaudino? What happened to God? But in that kind of vein where you're like, okay, we'll spend a little bit of money for X, Y, and Z player, not with the hope that they're gonna take a starting spot, but you know, same way Mark Rocha, but you're just like, okay, this could work out. Maybe it can't. Maybe it won't. You know, that kind of thing is kind of what I like. So he would be my go-to. And that would be my sensible transfers. That would be how I would progress with our contracts and our transfers for this summer. Let me know what you all think. Would you be a lot harsher? Like ideally, I probably would be a lot harsher, but I also have to take into account it's kind of like the fine balancing act between being a sporting director, I guess, and just like someone on the sidelines. You kind of have to take into account the finances that are currently available at the club. Otherwise, I'd be a lot more brutal, and I would say that a lot more changes would be happening. So, but those would not be sensible transfers. So maybe I'll do an actual like how I would do the transfers for this summer, but we'll see about that, eh? Let me know what you would do for some sensibly, of course, and that's the key part here. Not going over the top, sensibly, of course, and that's just the way I view it all. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I will see all of you in the next one. Everyone, until then, have a nice day. Peace out, and as always,